this out for everyone who could join us today. So again, this is Connect for Women's Power Hour with Karuna Thomas, and we'd love to hear you introduce yourself too.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you for the opportunity. Definitely love this forum. Been following Connect for Women since the beginning of this year. So yes, a little bit about my journey. I come from a 2-decade background in supply chain from the food service and restaurant side of the industry. And this past decade, I've actually been on the international side of supply chain, working for a global brand with an international footprint. So that gave me exposure to working with clientele, stakeholders, executives from around the world, and helping them set up their supply chain network and build the brand to scale or supply chain to scale. So that got me interested in diversity, equity, inclusion, just working with diverse stakeholders, diverse background, economic background, educational background, bringing different ideas to the table. It was very, very exciting to work in that diverse environment. And it started getting me engaged on the diversity, equity, inclusion side since 2017. And I also branched out into community outreach simultaneously. And over the past year, I decided to transition and move from supply chain into human resources or diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I realized that the community outreach, the social work that I had been doing, how much of an impact it also had on career development and career building. So as I've met women over the last 6 months, with each one being at a different stage or phase in their career and life decisions, I just wanted to share this big topic on how social impact can also help with bridging skill gaps or any career gaps or resume gap that you may have or want to take a career break. So that's why I'm passionate about this topic and wanted to bring it to a more larger audience. So with that, I'll go ahead and share my screen. Is everyone able to see my screen? There was a time where I was doing a presentation thinking I'd shared my screen, but I had not.
Yeah,
okay. So again, there are a lot of quotes and inspirational sayings out there. This one is among the ones that resonates with me. We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. I think the pandemic has been a pivotal point in all our lives, and it has brought us to a crossroad. And again, like I mentioned, I've met a lot of women over the course of this year who are, at that crossroad, finding purpose, finding meaning, and making new choices and moving forward. So the topics that I'm going to cover in this discussion are, again, around community outreach and well-being. I also talk about a little about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and how that also helps with give back. And of course, pandemic and the impact, the She session. And of course, an area that, I'm sure we're all involved in, give back, but how we may not be looking at the takeaways that we can get in return to giving back. We also get back a lot. So really excited to share that. And of course, having a decade of international exposure and experience, I can't end without talking about international outreach as well. And please feel free to put anything in the chat, or if you have any questions, definitely we'll be taking questions. I did notice that I can't see the chat as I'm sharing my screen.
So... I have the chat, so I'll let you know what I see.
Okay, great. Okay, so talking about community outreach, it falls under community well-being. So I wanted to bring this book up, Well-Being, the 5 Essential Elements by Tom Rath and Jim Harder. They're from the Gallup Institute, or organization that helps other companies when it comes to providing a better well-being or environment for their employees and better managerial skills, developing that, as well as the Strength Finders. So if you may be familiar with Clifton Finders or Clifton Strengths, So Tom Rath and Jim Harder wrote the book Well-Being after conducting a global survey of people in more than 150 countries. And they found that what was something that was interconnected and that people thrived on if they led a balance, it was between these 5 segments. I've added a 6th one since right now mental health and emotional well-being is also a big topic. And this survey was done back in 2010. So a lot of things have evolved since then, especially in the past year. But there were 5 elements that intersected and which it was essential to lead a life that we can associate, with well-being or thriving. So it was career, community, social, financial, and physical health. So career, of course, it is finding purpose and meaning, something that you love to do day in and day out. And they also found that very few a segment of the population that they surveyed, again, around 150 countries, a very small percentage were thriving in all 5 areas. And that takes me to my journey in 2017, the global organization that a global restaurant chain that I was working for, their chief people officer shared this book with all the employees. And there is a well-being finder test that you can take in this book and find out what are the areas that you're doing well and what are the areas that you can do better. And for me, it was community well-being. I lacked in community well-being. I was thriving in all the other areas, but community well-being was low, though I was participating in our company's give back events. So of course, it does not have to be big or extravagant depending on where you are, but it did trigger an interest for me to pursue this well-being more. So like I mentioned, you can start where you are, the perfect place for you. It starts right within your community, your residence. When you identified a place that you want to live in, you probably looked at, if you have children, the school district or the aesthetics, the social offerings, the amenities, and then decided to stay there. But you can also, as part of the community, you can even engage in the homeowners association or the parent-teacher association or volunteering at the senior living care. So it can start right within the community that you live in. Well-doing, the pinnacle of a life well lived. This is something, This is something, we hear a lot from community volunteers that they get a helper's high. So by giving, you actually get back. So that was a big aha even for me, that I loved and looked forward to the give back initiatives that I started getting involved in. And it was because it was giving me this energy. And when they again surveyed more than 23,000 people on this topic, nearly 9 to 10% 9 out of 10 reported getting an emotional boost from doing kind things for other people. So it gives you a lot back by contributing. And it's okay to make it personal. So as you are, again, depending on where you are in your journey, if it is something that you want to start out or get more involved in, it's okay to make it personal. Because that way you have a lot more vested interest and you have more knowledge and you are more dedicated and committed to the cause. So there again, surveys show that people gravitate to causes that, a parent with a degenerative disease or somebody who had a parent with a degenerative disease or a friend with cancer or parents with children with autism. I personally gravitate towards supporting causes that advocate for children's well-being. I'm a CASA, court-appointed special advocate. I also am involved in initiatives that support children's education and of course, gender equality. So these are the ones that I personally resonate with. And the benefits of volunteering are also a lot. It helps you build your social connections. It helps you connect with others. It also builds your network. So as we talk about networking in the career world, networking is just as much or actually more when you are involved with nonprofit organizations and volunteer. It's good for the mind and body. There's enough and more scientific data out there that talks about your well-being, your emotional well-being, your mental wellness, and of course, your physical well-being. It really impacts it positively. And of course, volunteering brings fun. That's why a lot of organizations have this as team building activities, because it is a lot of fun and it helps build stronger bonds. And the one that we're here to talk about is advancing your career. So this is something, of course, we're going to talk through this session, because it is easy to overlook this aspect of the skills that you develop, the attributes that you develop, because the big thing in volunteering is you donate your time, you donate your expertise, but because there isn't necessarily a monetary sum involved, you're not getting paid monetarily, you kind of minimize the skills that you develop over the course of time. And that's what I'm going to focus on, but in no way do I want to minimize the amount of work and engagement and the communities that you build by donating your time, efforts, and your expertise. And I'm happy to talk about that offline as well, but here I will be focusing on how community give back advances your career. Okay. Okay, so again, depending on where you are in your journey, if you're looking for, what cause would be more meaningful to you, what would resonate with you, I have listed the 17 sustainable development goals that United Nations actually put together in 2015. The Sustainable Development Goals, or SDG, are a collection of 17 global goals aimed at improving the planet and the quality of human life around the world by the year 2030. So of course, the pandemic has definitely put a dent and put us behind in some of these areas, or probably all these areas, because travel was also, restricted. So if you are, the reason I put this out there is, though this is global and has a global impact, you can start locally as well. There are a lot of organizations that you will find right here in the US that whose mission or cause falls under these 17 SDGs. And like I said, you can always start small, start local, but these have a global impact as well. I'm not able to see the chat. Is there something that I need to respond to, Jennifer?
I know, just Susan was talking about her commitment to mental health and that she volunteers at local food pantries. Susan's business is built around kind of giving back in mental health. She has a startup. So I think that's pretty amazing. And we were just talking about how serving others brings joy. And I think that in terms of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, it also to, if you think about committing to one of these, then once you get into corporate, you might be saying this later, these are ones that corporations are committed to too, right? So I think that that's really interesting. But no questions thus far.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, absolutely. So everything ties, like I said, everything that I'm sharing here is going to tie to corporations. You will find more and more organizations, especially over this past year. They are definitely being more deliberate and intentional about give back and are getting more robust. And I will be sharing some of those resources, and your organizations may already be involved with those resources that I share. But this one kind of gives you an idea if, again, you're looking for a cause that resonates with you, because ultimately it has to be something that you value and you're able to identify with. Like I said, for me, I organically gravitate towards children, youth, and women empowerment or gender equality. I am involved in other areas, but I always gravitate towards these three. So again, finding some environment, climate action, that is also huge. So I know a lot of Gen Zs and millennials are very active in these areas. So a little bit about my give back. Again, I've streamlined it definitely, I just wanted to put it under these SDG buckets. But of course, when I started out, I did not know about sustainable development goals. This was more, again, like I said, it was children's well-being and education. So Adara Foundation is an nonprofit organization that helps underprivileged women in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, helps them train to get them out of, they would go to the landfills and pick out garbage. And also they would take their newly born child, 6-month-old child, less than a year-old child, to the landfill. And because they did not have anywhere to drop them, or there was no daycare. So Adara Foundation works on getting daycare and sends the children to the schools in Addis Ababa, and also helps train the women so that they can start their own businesses. In fact, we take paper from all these universities, and actually universities here in Texas. I'm based in Texas, by the way, Dallas-Fort Worth area. From all the big schools, Texas, TCU, Texas Christian University, all the other university in Oklahoma, and here in Texas, Alabama. The students actually go to Adara Foundation in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, to help engage and find more sustainable employment opportunities. So just through this forum, so I'm a sponsor and a volunteer, and I have been to Addis, Ethiopia as well. So the skill sets that you learn from just here is teamwork, collaboration, learning about different countries' regulations and policies. You also work with a lot of multinational companies in the process, because you want to see how they can provide employment opportunities to these women. So you're having those, leadership conversations in the process as well. So again, not taking away the work that goes into providing sustainability, providing employment opportunities, economic growth, education to the children. But also, like I said, since this session is about what are the skills that you can tap into from the work that you do. And in fact, I have been guilty of not translating those skills. I would put it on my resume, but I would not necessarily sit there and translate what are the skills that would help in my career development. So whatever initiative that you are involved in, start making a proper, a career resume that you would normally do with your full-time job or a job that you're paid for. Junior League is another of Collin County. I'm in Collin County. So there's Junior League, which is also an organization of women committed to promoting volunteerism. They also associate with a lot of different nonprofits. So they do a lot of social service as well. And even over here, especially if you're looking for opportunities to get on board or to become a chair, your leadership skills can really be tapped into through these forums, through these nonprofits. So if you are looking at wanting to manage a team, if you're looking at wanting to get that next promotion, you are wanting to, get up to become a VP or whatever senior leadership or management that you want to get into, junior leagues are a very good way of not only doing give back, but also building your own skills.
Yeah.
Gender equality, again, I'm part of a lot of different women's organizations, including Lean-In, Luminary, I'm Remarkable. I'll talk a little bit down the road. And of course, peace, justice, and strong institutions. I'm a CASA, court-appointed special advocate, and all the different initiatives that I support right now are under diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. So again, talking about the pandemic, it's been very, the impact of the pandemic has been more volatile on women. And that's how this recession is termed as she-cession. So since March of 2020, we've been seeing a lot of statistics out there where, women, this was in December, women accounted for 100% of the 140,000 jobs shed by the US economy in December, that women are bearing a compounding weight of structural racism and domestic expectations of gender role. I mean, we've seen the plight is the word I'm going to use of working mothers, where they've had to wear so many different hats, which they were already wearing, but it just compounded because daycare was shut. They were working from home. They were the teachers. They were, if they were elderly in the home, especially with ethnic minorities who live in a joint family or extended family, all within the same home, their burden just increased. So, and again, millions of women haven't rejoined the workforce. Like I said, a lot of women have come to crossroads where if the corporate companies do not provide or change their policies to accommodate their well-being, and where they can bring their holistic whole self and have a better quality of work-life balance, they are making that strong decision of not going back. There are tons of reasons, which we'll talk about a few, but the biggest one, of course, is the Global Gender Gap report that came out by the World Economic Forum earlier this year during March, International Women's Day, that the global gender gap has increased by a generation from 99.5 years to 135.6 years. I mean, 99 years itself was too long, and now to add another 30 years to that is just, it's very dramatic, very, very volatile, and we've got to find ways to mitigate that gap. And with women losing jobs or getting furloughed, or just making that intentional decision to take a career break, is where this discussion stems from for me, is that it's really important to continue to build those skills, continue to hone in on those skills, maybe not necessarily in the corporate world, but even in community outreach that you may already be involved in. Okay, so depending on where you are in your journey right now, if you are looking to enhance your skills, or you're looking to look at a different field, like I did, I wanted to move from supply chain to diversity, equity, inclusion, and coaching, or exploring a new career. Again, I have moved out of the restaurant industry, though I'm open to it. I have opened up my horizon to a lot more different industries. So what I've listed on here is actually things that I came across in the last year myself, that skills that have that are highly looked for now. I mean, if you look at the job description, when I would look at the job description just in diversity, equity, and inclusion, there were 3 recurring themes that stood out in those job descriptions. It was presentation, it was data analytics, and then it was project management. So project management, again, from my work as a CASA volunteer, court-appointed special advocate, where children are removed from their homes and put into foster care, the court appoints a CASA to be their eyes and ears, and the case can go on for 12 months to 18 months. So you're working in the best interest of the child, what is good for the child, making sure the child is taken care of, even when they're in, especially when they're in foster care as well. You work with a lot of attorneys, you work with the school system, you work with the medical system, anything and everything that touches the child. So the skills that I didn't realize I was building was conflict management, because first of all, no one's happy that their child, majority of the time, parents are not happy that the child was taken away from them. They want their child back. The child also wants to go back. So when you're dealing with all the different attorneys, there is conflict. And project management, program management, team building, change management, I did not realize all these different skills that were actually, that I was building in the course of being a CASA, in addition to, of course, taking care of the child, their needs, making sure, you have their best interest, fighting a good battle and advocating for them in court. So also, those were all new things even for me. Being in the legal system. I was in supply chain, I was in the restaurant industry. So just giving you examples, and hopefully this will help you kind of think along the lines that resonate with you along a mission or a cause that resonates with you. But again, if you are looking at, again, taking that next step, or you joined a department newly or joined a company newly, and you want to develop any of these skills, again, volunteering helps support building these skills, leadership skills, public speaking, presentation, continuous learning. You get to meet people from different areas of life, different facets, different industries, and you learn a whole lot more about what is even out there. Again, evaluating new fields. If you go to LinkedIn and look up some of the articles, these are some of the fields and industries that have gained a lot of momentum in the last year, as well as their hiring has gone up like over 50% in some cases. So again, if these are areas that you would like to, have an affinity for, or have some existing skills or something that you want to look into further, you can do that through volunteering. In my instance, of course, workplace diversity was something that I moved to. And in the course of that, I have found that there's a lot of opportunity within education as well. Again, I'm talking about the ones that resonated with me, but any of this, as you start deep diving, you will learn more and more, because under any discipline or department, there are multiple subsects. Just in supply chain, we have in the restaurant side, we had food and beverage, we had non-food, we had equipment, we had distribution, warehousing and logistics, we had quality assurance. I'm sure it's the same thing with marketing. There is now digital marketing, social media. There's just a plethora of subsects or subcategories. So even if you want to just, find out, just investigate or have a discovery session, you can do that through volunteering.
So there's not really a question in the chat, but a comment from Susan about how she's had some feedback regarding her resume, encouraging taking out volunteer experiences. So do you want to talk a little bit about that and maybe kind of ask about that, Susan?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Karuna. Sorry. Apologies. What's it called? Yeah, so I've definitely, I guess throughout the span of my career, but especially now as I am actively submitting resumes, I've always had, from peers, regardless of the age and also regardless of sector, telling me that, let's say it's great that you have content experience or public speaking or leadership, these things that reflect these qualities that are reflected through volunteer experience, but they're is it stronger than the points or the bullet points that are included in your work experience? And I'm like, no, but it's important to me, and I'm passionate about working in an organization that recognizes that. And then I guess the argument, the conversation usually evolves into kind of well, this is kind of reconciling the space, this whole 1-page resume, 1.5-page resume limit, and also reconciling the fact that I guess just all the feedback saying that it's not relevant ultimately. So I don't think I've ever had feedback with people encouraging me to take out volunteer experience because it's not at all relevant, but more has lesser importance. So I mean, I really appreciate your presentation because I think it's the contrarian thought, and I also absolutely am aligned with everything you're saying. But I would say from my experience, I have not really not experienced that from professional mentors, from peers, and both groups, which I really respect and hold in my community. So I'd love to get feedback on how you'd approach that strategically.
Yeah, no, great points and very valid points, because I've experienced both. And that's where I learned how do you story tell? How do you lay more emphasis and impetus? So it became about storytelling, because I totally I totally get what you're saying. And I've had some similar experiences. And that's when I became even more deliberate about how do you story tell? How do you use examples to convey your strength from the give back? Because last year, last quarter of last year, I would have it on my resume, and the feedback was pretty much the same. It was almost like they weren't even paying attention to it. And then I started, as I was, like I said, I had diversity, equity, and inclusion experience, but it was part-time. And all this work that I had done, supporting veterans, transitioning them into the workplace, helping them with their resume building skills. I had even been a media reporter, which helped me with my public speaking, my presentation skills, my self-confidence. But I wasn't doing the storytelling part of it to where it was not, the strengths were not being conveyed. So I had to change to where instead of adding that additional page and telling what additional page of the nonprofit work that I was doing or volunteer work that I was doing, I had to pretty much storytell like I would, like my regular job that I was in, which was in international supply chain. So I had to make that transition. So I totally get what you're saying. So what I started doing is in my cover letter, just going all out and making it like very, very visible and very, those are the strong skills. And when I made that shift, I started getting a lot of consulting opportunities in diversity, equity, and inclusion. But so thanks for bringing that up, because I did have to change the way I was advocating those skills.
Yeah, so thank you so much for the actionable steps.
Yeah, because instead of just adding it as another page on my resume, which I noticed was not getting traction at all, I started storytelling. And in fact, this was a feedback that I got from a hiring manager, an HR person, and oh my gosh, I changed my resume 360, 180, and then I also changed my cover letter, and it was night and day. So just talking about those skills and strengths, just as you would about, and always quantify. Always quantify, always. That's why I'm saying that we don't put as much focus on the strengths and skills that we're learning. For example, even with CASA, I've been doing CASA since 2018. I had never sat down and put down, oh, there's conflict management that I accomplished, change management, project management, program management. So when you start accounting those and actually have substantial or quantifying examples of this is what I accomplished in the process, mitigated the time or was able to close the case in 6 months versus a year. If you quantify, just like how we quantify saying we had $1 million in savings, or I launched the brand in China or Vietnam, having the same approach even with your nonprofit work. So enhancing skills or upskills. So these are these are resources. I'm not saying one organization over the other, and there are more organizations out there. I'm not advocating one over the other. These are just resources. And I'm sure as you look into these resources, you will find a whole lot more resources there. Once you're out there in the nonprofit world, these are names that come up, and that's where I have presented these as options or resources. So there's a lot of pro bono work that is being asked by nonprofits. In fact, even on the phone, you can find a lot of different apps now for nonprofit. Again, make sure you are quantifying your time. You are accounting, because there are tax breaks as well. So these are all things that I learned more after the fact. So always keep track of the time that you invest as well. And all these resources like Taproot Foundation, Catch a Fire, it'll help you create your account, and it actually has options there to make note of all that. So whether you're in marketing, HR, finance, design, just see what companies. So this is almost like a Netflix. It's like a database, and all different nonprofit organizations. For Taproot, it's around the world. For Catch a Fire, it's all around the US, nonprofit organizations. So they will, you find something that resonates with you. And there are so many new fields that have come up. There are so many new industries that have come up, especially in the past year, because of all the changes that have taken place. Yesterday I came across something called human design. And I'm like, what is human design? And it was about, it was a combination of astrology and something to do with energy and how you can find what you were designed to do, but these external factors kind of got you derailed, and how it can get you back on track. So it's amazing what you end up finding out through volunteering.
I've never heard about the tax break thing. So you can get tax breaks by your time versus actual, financial donations.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
And an accountant should know about that, because I don't think our accountants ever asked us about that. That's interesting.
Yeah. So this was something, again, it's been after the fact that I learned that your hours, and of course you have to quantify that into, especially if your expertise is in marketing or HR or finance or a specialized field, and you are donating your expertise and your time in that specialization. In fact, Catch a Fire will tell you the amount that you helped save them by donating your time. So you can get with your tax accountant to find out to what extent of that amount you can put out there. I don't know that you can put the entire amount, but yes, if you are able to quantify and have that paperwork from the nonprofit, yes, you do. It does reduce your tax that you owe, if you owe any. Yeah.
Great. And being on a board, do you know as well? Would that quantify?
I'm not sure about that. But yeah, anything that is specialized, and you can translate that into money. I mean, you can translate that into a monetary amount. Definitely get with the CPA or the tax consultant, because this is something I found out very recently, though I've been doing this for 3 years. I coach, so I'm a career coach. I coach. I used to coach. I coach veterans, and then I got a specialization in coaching, and now I do it for a living. So, what aspects of pro bono can you get? Is that goes towards that you can put on your tax returns? Yeah, I was not quantifying my time, so that's why I said make sure you quantify your time, make an account of it. Treat it exactly like how you would treat your corporate job in some ways. So we tend to overlook a lot of the benefits because we're not getting paid monetarily, but we have to be our own advocates even in this instance. So yeah, these are two organizations that you can look at to see if there's something that resonates with you, and also helps whether you want to dabble into a new field or new skill or new industry. And I keep going backwards. Same thing with evaluating a new field. Again, depending on where you are, one of the advantages of volunteer, by where you are, I mean, if you're taking a break or you're just contemplating evaluating a new field. This is another one that I found earlier this year is Volunteer Match, and McKinney is the city that I live in. And it was amazing to see the different additional areas, advocacy and human rights, animals, arts and culture, of course, children and youth I'm familiar with, but there were a lot of other areas that showed up that, I started getting interested in just to explore, and also to find out if it is something that I would like to want to pursue. Any questions? No, okay. And exploring a new career or industry. So this was definitely something that I benefited from this entire year. Again, not advocating one organization over another. This is just my journey that I'm sharing. You will definitely find, by getting engaged, you will find your own organizations and mission that you would want to advocate for. So mine was specifically moving away from supply, or using what I've learned in supply chain, especially on the global side, and bringing that into diversity, equity, and inclusion, and also coaching. So I was attending a lot of webinars through Power to Fly, through Luminary. In fact, thanks to Jennifer De Silva, I got to know about Luminary through the database that she had created, Connect for Women. And I met so many different women from different industries, different places in their career journey. And I have learned so much over these last 6 months. And that's why I felt I wanted to extend this to a broader audience, because I've been having one-on-one coffee chats, and a lot of folks would ask me, how did you make your career transition? How did you change fields? How did you change careers? So like I said, I have to attribute it to the social work, the community outreach initiatives that I was involved in. And I did not know at that time that it would actually support me in making that career change or transition. So Power to Fly, this is again, an organization. It's a women's organization. They support diversity recruiting and hiring across Fortune 500 companies. And they were also, they have conferences. They have 4 to 5 day robust virtual conferences every month on diversity, equity, inclusion. So that's why they are on the screen for me, because I was moving into diversity, equity, inclusion. And through these platforms, Luminary is again, okay, let me pull up my notes, is a global membership-based career and personal growth platform and collaboration hub created to address the systemic challenges impacting women across all industries and sectors. So the founder, Kate Luzio, she's been very, very intentional. She's been very all hands on helping women through Luminary. What can Luminary do to help women get back into the workforce? In fact, last month, or earlier this month, gosh, June already feels like a long month, I was able to get on their Indeed and Luminary fellowship program. So it was, again, helping women get back into the workforce. It was a fellowship. So if I had not known about Luminary, I would not have known about the fellowship. But now I have the folks that I networked with through these forums, who also send me opportunities in diversity, equity, and inclusion, or send me an opening in coaching. So it really builds your network. So I have already gotten a fellowship. I've got another sort of an internship in diversity, equity, inclusion. So you are able to build your skills and build your network. The word network, I feel, does not emphasize how important it is and all the benefits that you get from actually building those relationships, and also being able to be a net weaver. By that I mean, even if I'm not able to provide a resource or an opportunity for you, do I know someone who can? So making that connection, that is very important, more so today than ever before. So Junior League, again, you can find Junior League anywhere in the US. It's a national based women's organization. And NCORE was another one that I came across. They are about bridging the gap between senior citizens and the younger generation. So they are bridging the gap between generation to generation. That's like their motto. So if you have 20 years or more of experience and you just want to, again, do some volunteer work, part-time work, again, if you're in between a career break, or you've taken intentional break to take care of parents or children, ncore.org is also a great organization to look into for fellowship. You do get paid. Again, I do want to emphasize that all volunteer work does not necessarily mean you don't get paid monetarily. There are some, especially around fellowships, like the DEI fellowship that I got, and NCORE also has opportunities where you get paid, but it's not, of course, which is going to compensate like your regular corporate job or your business. But something to look into. All these provide a lot of different opportunities and options. Path Forward. So Returnship is another initiative that has become, that has gained a lot of traction. And there are over 160 companies worldwide that are investing in these programs right now, after recognizing that not everyone has a traditional career path. So it's basically an internship for adults who have, taken a break from work for whether it's 5 years, 10 years, or this last 2 years, and they want to return to back to their career, but they don't necessarily, need to start from the bottom up. So it gives these returnship programs, gives them the opportunity to kind of, again, build their skills and just get into a better position than they would have if they did not have that program. So Path Forward Return to Work Partners program. So they partner with over 80 hiring partners across the US. So if it's something that you want to look into or know somebody who needs this resource if they're trying to get back into the workforce. So there are 160 companies worldwide, and Path Forward themselves have associated with 80 companies here in the US. So if you go to their website, it lists all the different organizations, very well-known organizations, and they word it differently, like Workday Opportunity on Ramps, Wells Fargo Glide, Relaunch, United Technologies, Re-Empower. So it's named different, but it's also like a segue or a step to jump back in and get trained. Any questions so far? Anything that I can elaborate on? We have about 6 minutes left. Okay. And the last one is, of course, international community outreach. So these are two books that I personally got when about 5 years ago, I was thinking about taking a break and doing volunteer work internationally. But thankfully, I was in a job where I could have an impact globally as well. And then, of course, I came across organizations like Adara that I could also become a volunteer and volunteer abroad. But this gives you, cultural intelligence, cultural competence, which are, again, key skills that are asked for today in the workforce. Empathy, first world problems. You realize that electricity is actually a luxury. Water, free-flowing water, hot water, they're all luxuries when you get out there and meet people from all different walks of life. And you all actually find that culture or language is not necessarily a barrier. Ultimately, we humans pretty much have the same need to belong, to be included, and to have a voice. The Culture Map is a book that I put out there. It's by Erin Meyer. She's one of the prominent speakers and authors of cultural diversity, or breaking through the invisible boundaries of global business. She talks about navigating the different cultures when you do business with people from all over the world. So if you are having a career in international, this book would be a great one to read or listen to Erin Meyer's talk. So yeah, I try to capture as much as I could. I know there's a lot of resources in here, but if you want to, talk to me specifically about anything that I have shared over here, happy to, talk to you offline. And this is my contact information.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for this. Like, I found it incredibly helpful. And one of the things that I think about for, volunteering and giving back is the ability to network through it, right? So it's, the skills that you're getting from doing it and that you might not get from, your day-to-day job, or, that you want to pursue in something that you're looking to do, but the networking potential and the chance to meet people. And it made me think like, oh, I just moved to California, and that could actually be a way that I could meet people that are like-minded, if I'm volunteering on something that I'm passionate about. So something that I'm going to look into too.
No, awesome. And thank you, Jennifer, for sharing those links, and Susan sharing the links. Yeah, I had made a note of them over here, but did not necessarily put that. Would it be okay if I just throw in a bunch of links now?
Yeah, go ahead. And some of my links weren't very good. I was just taking the top ones. So Power to Fly is like 3 sentences, but I think that there are some great resources that you shared. Oh, perfect. Thank you so much for sharing those, because that'll come up in the video as well.
Okay, and this is my link if anyone wants to.
Any questions from the group? No? All right.
Very helpful information. Very helpful.
Thanks, Michelle.
I came in a little late, but yeah, the links are great too, so I can kind of go back too. So thank you, Karuna. Just a wealth of information.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. Yeah, again, like I said, the ones that I've shared are the ones that resonated in my journey, but trust me, you will find the ones that will align with your mission and your cause. It's just like, a domino effect. One thing leads to another. So it's very empowering.
Well, thank you so much. Great job. And we will speak soon. Thanks all.
Yeah.
Take care. See
Thank you.
next
Thanks,
time.
everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Jennifer, again for the opportunity. Take
Yeah,
care.
thank you.
Bye-bye.